Hey guys, today we're going to go ahead and take a look at some Swift basics here so we can start getting a feel for the programming language we're going to be working with this semester. So we're going to go ahead and practice some of the basics here. So if you want to go ahead and get Xcode up and running, we're going to actually use a new feature of Xcode today, and that's the playground feature, just so we can play around with some code here and just do a little experimenting. So when you get to our main screen, go ahead and choose Get Started with Playground. All right, and then we'll get a little different view here. So we're just going to go ahead, we'll call this Swift Practice Playground. Okay, so let's go ahead and just give it that basic name for me there. And then we want to make sure your platform is iOS. Just double check that. We don't want we want to make sure it's on the iOS option. Click on Next. And then, as always, give that a good save location. And then we'll get to this view here. So you can see we're not working with a project, so we don't have the files, we don't have a storyboard to work with. We just have this playground, so it's a good place to go in and just, if you want to try out some code before you put it into your app or your project, you could use this for that. But also a great place, since we're learning right now, just to play around with some things. So we can just try a few different things. So let's go ahead, and I'm just going to expand my view here just to get this on a big screen for us. Give that a second. So apparently that was a lot to process. So here we go. So first thing we're going to do here is we're going to get rid of this stuff here. We don't need this var string hello playground. I don't even think we need the UI kit right now. So we can actually go ahead and let's just get rid of everything. So let's start with a blank slate here. Okay. So we're going to basically be working with two things today. We got variables. Okay. So this is information that can be changed. And we're going to also be working with constants today. All right, that is information that cannot be changed. So variables and constants. And again, I'm using the comment feature right now. So that's just, anytime you leave two backslashes, you can type after that. That does not affect code, will not compile. It's just comments that you could leave. So maybe you want to leave yourself some notes or information there. Okay, so now that we're going to look at variables and constants today, why don't we start with the variable? So anytime you're going to make a variable, so why don't we just label this section here? We always start with the word var. So that's kind of the key word for variable, var. Pretty simple to remember, var, variable. All right, and then you always have to give it a name. Okay, so you always have to have a name for your variables and constants, because you can see right now we're getting an error, and every time you see this little red circle here, that's an error message. So we got to definitely give this a name. So we're going to go ahead and call this one. We'll go ahead and we'll just work with the number of students in our class. Or we'll say number of students, okay, in class. Okay, so you'll notice how I type this here is we have our camel casing. So what camel casing means is that you always start with a lowercase letter, all right, but then each word after that is capitalized. So N and then O, S, I, and C. That's what we call camel casing. Okay, so that's just kind of coding that's how we will do this throughout the semester. All right, so we always want to make sure we have camel casing on our variables or our constants here. Okay, so now we've declared this as a variable. Okay, so now we want to give it a type. Okay, so there's many different types of variables, and you guys have read through some information on constants and variables. So we got to type this. So there's two ways you can do it. So the first way we'll do it is we'll kind of give it an explicit. We're going to tell it that we want this to be an integer. So we're going to go colon, and we're going to type an int. All right, so we have gone ahead and said that variable number of students is going to be an integer. Okay, so we've now declared the variable. Okay, so now the last thing we would want to do is we want to initialize a variable with a value. So we can go equal sign, and we'll say, we'll say 21. Okay, I believe we got 21 students in the class. So we've now made this variable number of students. Okay, so it's a variable number of students in class. It's an integer, and it's equal to 21. Okay, so number of students in class is now 21. Okay, so now as you look over on the right here, this is just the output, okay, of this variable. Okay, so we've now made this. So now if we were to ever have to call a variable, okay, so this is something that you might hear me say, or you're going to have to do throughout the semester. So if we want to call a variable, once you've made a variable, you don't have to put the var in front of it. So if let's say we wanted to use number of students in class in our code somewhere in the app, all we have to do now is just start typing in number, and you'll see it gives us the option to just autocomplete. Number of students in class, that's the one we want. So we're going to call the variable, hit enter, And you can see it puts it on its own new line of code. And then, it outputs number 21 because number of students in class is equal to 21. Okay, so that's the first part. So far, we've declared a variable, var, number of students in class. We've given it a type of integer. We've assigned it a value of 21. Okay, so now below that we called the variable just by typing in number of students in class. Okay, so again, autocomplete is a very good feature of Xcode. Use it, use it, use it. Okay, because it's much easier to avoid mistakes. So that way you don't type something in incorrectly. Use the autocomplete option, and that makes things just a lot easier for you. All right, so now that we have this variable made, we've called it, and then we can do some different things here. Let's say we wanted to change the value of a variable. All right, so again, because it's a variable, we can change the value. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so if we wanted to, let's say we had a new student join our class here, so we had to add something to it. Okay, we could do this. We could go number of states in class, or students in class, and again, we can call this variable as many times as we want. There's no maximum. We can call it over and over. And the nice thing is when you create it up here, you don't have to you don't have to keep typing in var number of students var. You can call that over and over. So if we wanted to reassign this variable, let's say we added 2 more students to the class. If we now had 23, we could just type in number of students in class equal to 23, and we've now reassigned it. Okay, so that's going to give you a little, let's see here, reassign variable. Okay, so that way you just know what we're doing here. So we reassign the variable, and now when we call it again, call the variable, you go number of students in class, you'll see it now outputs 23. Okay, so again, it was 21 up here, but we reassigned it to 23, so now number of students in class is equal to 23. Okay, so again, basically you could read it this way: number of students in class gets a value of 23. Okay, so that's the first part here we're working with when we work with variables. So variables can be changed. Okay, and then again, it's a matter of declaring it, var number of students in class, calling it, reassigning it. All right, and that's just kind of the first part here. All right. Next thing we're going to take a look at is our constants. Okay, so constants cannot be changed. Okay, and they start off, so now our variables have the nice convenient var, which is kind of the beginning of the word variable. Constants are declared with the keyword let, L-E-T. Okay, so it's not like con or anything shorthand for constant. It's the 3 letters let, L-E-T. Okay. So now, let's say, so again, this cannot be changed. So again, we'll say this. We'll go number of computers in room. So again, using our camel casing, lowercase first word, every other one's capitalized. Okay, so again, let's go ahead and give that a we're going to make this an int. All right, and I believe we've got 30 computers in this room here. All right, so that is the beginning. So pretty similar, just the only thing that's different here is just the keyword. So variable is var, constant is let. Okay, so now, all right, again, same thing, it's going to output over here. All right, but now since we've made this number of computers a constant, we cannot change this. Okay, so if we were to try to change this right now here, we would get some error messages right now. So let's go ahead and show you that. So trying to call change a constant. All right, so just like before, I can call this constant just by using autocomplete. So I just want to make sure I choose the correct one, number of computers in room. All right, so now right away, let's say, I want to add a new computer. So if I were to set this equal to 32, okay, give that a second, we got an error. So if I click on the little stop sign looking icon, it says you cannot assign value, number of computers in room is a let constant. So it's something you can't change it. Nice thing about this here is it tells you how to fix it. You can change let to var to make it mutable. Mutable just is another word for change, but we don't want to do that. So we're just going to go ahead and delete. We're just going to click off of here. We're going to get rid of our 32 to get that error to go away. Okay, so that's the difference between variables and constants. Variables I can change, constants I can't. So in terms of when do you use those in code and when you don't, that's just going to kind of come and go. You'll use, again, Swift is going to encourage you to use constants. You'll see that when you're doing your projects, that if you have a variable made, they're going to kind of suggest that you change that to a constant if it never gets changed in your code. So Swift kind of helps you out in that regard. It's always a good idea to take their advice and switch that. So the only reason you would use a variable is if it's the value is going to change, and like I said, you're just going to discover times that you're going to need those and times that you're not. There's not like a set of rules to follow. It's just more just getting experience, letting the code kind of tell you where those things need to happen there. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show you here today. So again, we did a quick little practice on variables and constants. Again, these will be the kind of the foundation of the things we use going forward. If you got any questions, just make sure you're asking as always. But thanks again for watching through, and we will see you next time.